Where is everyone? I mean, the biggest DDoS attack in the world, they take one guy with them? Hi, my name is Scott Shapiro, and I'm a professor of law and a professor of philosophy and the director of the Cybersecurity Lab at Yale University. And I'm here to break down some clips about cyber hacks in movies. The Social Network.
The first thing we're going to need is a lot of pictures. Unfortunately, Harvard doesn't keep a public centralized Facebook, so I'm going to have to get all the images from the individual houses that people are in.
So I just want to say that this is not hacking. Hacking is when you take information that's private that you're not allowed to have and you bypass a security mechanism. What Mark Zuckerberg is doing in this clip is what's called web scraping. Web scraping is automatically collecting publicly available, so it's not defeating some security mechanism, it's just getting stuff from the web. That's what the web is for.
Let the hacking begin. First up is Kirkland. They keep everything open and allow indexes in their Apache configuration, so a little wget magic is all that's necessary to download the entire Kirkland Facebook.
Yeah, so this is quite accurate. Some web servers, if they're configured in a certain way, will tell you everything that they have in the directory, which is really good if you're web scraping because you know exactly what to scrape.
Kid stuff. Next is Elliot. They're also open, but with no indexes on Apache.
So what he's saying is there's no security, there's no authentication, but they didn't configure their web server so as to print out all the information. It makes it a bit harder to scrape.
I can run an empty search and it returns all the images in the database in a single page.
But he figured out a way around it, which is to do an empty search. That is, when you search, you just don't put anything in it, and it returned everything. So the fact that the web server doesn't give you the full content of the directory, it doesn't stop him from being able to collect all the information from it. Remember, what he's trying to do is he's trying to collect all the photographs to make a Facebook, or at the time, the Facebook.
Lowell has some security. They require a username password combo.
Lowell House has security. You have to put in your username and password, and you can see he just put in M. Zuckerberg and it didn't let him in.
Security. They require a username password combo, and I'm going to go ahead and say they don't have access to the main FAS user database, so they have no way of detecting an intrusion.
So he just put in his friend's name, Billy Olson, and let him in. I don't know why it let him in. Is Billy part of Lowell House? I don't know.
All I need to do is break out the same script I used on Lowell, and we're set.
Yeah, just a little tiny thing. Lowell had authentication and Adams didn't. You can't use the same script, or it's unlikely you can use the same script.
You can do an empty search and get links to pages with every student's picture. It's slightly obnoxious that they only let you view one picture at a time, and there's no way I'm going to go to 500 pages to download pics one at a time, so it's definitely necessary to break out Emacs and modify that Perl script.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very difficult to web scrape in the way that he's doing before, so he's going to have to change things. I will just say that not only do they get the commands right, but they kind of get the hacker culture right. Hoodies, alcohol, dirty rooms. Hacking often involves just sitting in front of a terminal for a very long time, just failing and failing and failing. Alcohol is a big part of hacker culture, just because sometimes it's easier to engage in this activity. There is a big problem of substance abuse in the security community, so it's not to be taken lightly. I would say 9.5. I mean, it's pretty accurate. To say let the hacking begin, I think is a bit, movie embellishment. This is Mr. Robot, the series.
You see, I thought we set up security protocols so that this doesn't happen. Where's the attack coming from?
Everywhere, obviously. USA, Finland, Thailand, Kuwait.
Start restarting the services, load sharing, redirect the traffic.
Where is everyone? I mean, they're saying that this is the biggest DDoS attack they've ever seen. Look, there's like 3 people in the office. In this case, the largest corporation in the world, they normally have gigantic teams like Cloudflare, which has enormous pipes, enormous bandwidth, many, many people trying to protect companies. It's just so strange that there's one guy who's on duty.
Wait, what?
I don't think this is just a DDoS attack.
I think they got a rootkit sitting inside the servers.
Every time we restart a server, the virus replicates itself during boot up and crashes the host.
What the main character, Elliot, is describing is a rootkit. Now, a rootkit is a kind of malware that burrows itself so deep within the computer system that it takes over the command and control centers. And what it can do is it can fool the user into thinking that it's not there. So what Elliot is trying to do is he's trying to stop what's called a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack. Some person, or group will send illegitimate requests to some computer system in order to exhaust its resources. And what Elliot is saying is that, yes, this is a DDoS attack, but really there's a rootkit that's been installed.
They're putting the network back up.
Where is everyone? I mean, the biggest DDoS attack in the world. They take one guy with them? I'm sorry. Security is done in teams. There's a kind of myth here of the lone wolf, either attacker or defender, when in fact, security is always done by teams which have a lot of different specialties. Mr. Robot is well known for having a staff of hackers who actually do the hacks. And if you know how to hack, it's a really fun show to watch. And even if you don't know how to hack, it's a really fun show to watch. But what's really nice is when you see things done that's technically accurate. So 9. Our next clip is from Skyfall.
It seems to me he's done a number of slightly unusual things. He's established fail-safe protocols to wipe the memory if there's any attempt to access certain files. Only about 6 people in the world could program safeguards like that.
All our iPhones have self-destruct features in them. Just want to point that out.
Of course there are. Can you get past them?
I invented them. Right then. Let's see what you've got for us.
He's plugging into his main system a malicious system. A very bad practice. Normally what you would want is to what's called sandbox the malware, to kind of put it in a safe, contained space so that it does not infect your main system, which, spoiler alert, happens.
Looks like obfuscated code to conceal its true purpose.
One of the things about coding is that it's not graphical like this. It's just pages and pages of text. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Security through obscurity.
You know, security through obscurity means you make things secure by keeping them private. It is thought that security by obscurity is a bad practice.
He's using a polymorphic engine to mutate the code. Whenever I try to gain access, it changes.
So polymorphic engines have been around since the early 1990s. I write about that in Fancy Bear.
It's like solving a Rubik's Cube that's fighting back.
Stop.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. This is going to make my blood pressure raise, but look at this. Like,
Remember Road.
So encryption uses extraordinarily complex mathematics. In order to break encryption, you have to use enormously powerful computers running for a very long time. If this is real encryption, this would take months to solve. It wouldn't happen by James Bond standing there seeing a bunch of plain text just rolling up a screen.
Tube station on the Metropolitan line. Been closed for years. Use that as a key.
James Bond is saying here is that Graham Burrow is the key to decrypt the code. Graham Burrow is such a short key that it would be really easy to break.
Oh, look, it's a map.
The code that doesn't actually form these kinds of geometric patterns, it turns out, makes a map of London. Like, why not just have the code print out a map of London?
Why are the doors open? Oh no. Can someone tell me how the hell he got into our system?
Well, you put the plug into your system. I'm sorry, I got a little upset. Pardon me. Yes, not such a clever boy.
Oh, shit. He hacked us.
Again, I don't know what to say. I know this is the movie, so you want to show that there's been a hack. But again, the way hackers work is they try to be as quiet as possible. So you don't want to do anything that's noisy, especially a skull that says not a clever boy. I would say the accuracy rating here would be maybe 0.5, being charitable because I might have missed something. Our next clip is Snowden.
No, I don't have authorization to use NSA programs.
Well, if you're the messenger to Bucharest, you must have a private clearance to see the finished intel, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what difference does it make if you see how it's put together? It's up to you, man.
This is not hacking. This is using a database known as X-Keyscore. X-Keyscore collects a lot of information that is the result of hacking from U.S. intelligence agencies and allies, collected in some searchable form.
And these are, like, existing targets? Like 99% are going to come from the bulk collection program, so.
Okay, just not true. So bulk collection, Section 215 of the Patriot Act, is a discontinued program that was inaugurated under the Bush administration, where basically the U.S. government was hoovering up all of the telephone records. But what's really important is that what was collected was what's so-called metadata. Who called whom, how long was the conversation for. What was not collected was the conversations. So it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that the information that he's going to talk about now was gotten from bulk collection.
So think of it as a Google search, except instead of searching only what people make public, we're also looking at everything they don't. So emails, chats, SMS, whatever.
Yeah, but which people?
The whole kingdom, Snow White.
This is just not accurate. Section 215 is bulk collection where they collect the telephone numbers, but not the conversations. Section 702 is targeted collection where they get actual conversations, but they're not allowed to target U.S. persons using Section 702. You would have had to go to the FISA court and have a real traditional FISA warrant, which is very, very cumbersome to put together.
I wish we could take credit, but the Brits wrote it.
Activation? Yeah, her laptop's off. Or it was, she just forgot to close it. Of course, how would she know? This shit is so sly, the webcam light doesn't even turn on.
Okay, I want to know, where are his supervisors? The NSA is a security organization. It has enormous amounts of oversight, not because it particularly cares about privacy, but it cares about security risks. access to databases of security information are controlled, you don't want an analyst to have access to the entire database because that's an enormous security risk. The movie's acting as if any analyst can type in whatever they want when there are supervisors, there are audits, and people have to worry about keeping their jobs or not going to jail. I would have imagined that the raw feeds, the takes would go to analysts first, who would then write it up and then put it into XKeyscore for other analysts to analyze.
In other words, turning your daddy into a CIA informant.
Wait, that's it?
That's it, bro.
You don't have to get a FISA court order?
No, not here. XKeyscore's under 702 authority, which means no warrants.
Section 702 is a warrantless surveillance. That is true. The vast majority of information that's collected by the US government is collected under something completely different called Executive Order 12333. That gives the CIA and NSA unfettered control, unfettered access to hack people outside of the United States. The screenwriter took all the words and put them into a blender and then threw it up on the screen. And I think that that does a great disservice because it becomes a source of, the movie becomes a source of misinformation. Whether you think that Snowden acted responsibly, whether he's a hero or a villain, there is no question that the Snowden revelations changed intelligence practices, changed the law in multiple ways. Before Snowden, we did not know that there was a secret court in Washington that was making different rules than what Congress had made. From a legal perspective, I would give it, a 2. I dare say that it may be a source of disinformation or misinformation, giving people the wrong idea about how U.S. surveillance practices work. Thanks for watching. My new book, Fancy Bear Goes Phishing, in hardback, ebook, and audio can be found in the link below in the description. And don't forget to subscribe to Penguin at the link over here.